Hey everybody, welcome to a very special Mother's Day episode of the Sharp Tongue Podcast. Beep, 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 beep. We're going to be talking all things moms in this episode. Well, we do a little update of what's going on in my life, but most of it is mothers related. It is Mother's Day for the motherless, the Dead Moms Club Mother's Day special, as we like to call it here on the Sharp Tongue Podcast. Simultaneously, also a grief survival guide episode, how to survive Mother's Day without your mother. So we're going to be talking about all things related to that. First, you're not going to believe a conversation I had with an Uber driver and what he said to me that really struck a chord in my soul, right in my heart hole. And I'll tell you guys about that at the end. First, I want to talk about a few things. I hosted for Netflix this past week. I hosted Clash of the Casts on the live stage for Netflix is a Joke Fest outside festival on their outside stage. A lot of fun. I was there kind of like a Family Feud. I basically was in my Steve Harvey suit. I came fresh. I came ready to play. I came ready to host, bringing my Steve Harvey energy because it was like the Family Feud and Coachella if they had a baby. That was Clash of the Casts. And it was me hosting a Family Feud style show with the cast of The Circle from Netflix and the cast of Too Hot to Handle. And it was a blast. I forever overthink everything and overcomplicate things, so I was overprepared per usual. And it ended up being a great time. It ended up being so much more fun than I expected. And I one thing I regret, I think I swore. I think I said the F word a bunch. And that's never great. It's not bad. It's real. It's what it is. But I feel like there's no need for it, especially in a scenario like that. And that's where my overthinking steps in. And it's also like where I can hear my mother being like, Jesus Christ, Jessica, you don't need to speak so poorly. You didn't get that from me. That's from your father's side of the family. They're both dead, but she would always harp on me if I swore. And my dad encouraged me swearing. So alas, here I am, this eternal purgatory of do I swear or do I not fucking swear? And I held on to my tequila the whole time. It was Sunday. It was a Sunday. I looked like Steve Harvey. I did my best. And I actually had a really good time. Sometimes things like that can be a little stressful, you know, leading up to it, because you're wondering of all the what ifs and am I going to be funny? What if I miss the point? What if I miss the rules? I had to ask for the rules a couple times. But the one thing that sort of leveled me and made me feel good was the fact that the production crew and the staff and also the producers of the show said, even Steve Harvey messes up and they have to reshoot. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Steve Harvey in his fancy suit has to reshoot. And I had to do a little research. I didn't have to do research, but I did. And I watched that episode of Family Feud with Snoop. And it was one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. Watching it, I genuinely laughed so hard. And I remember the viral clip. And it was when Snoop had to do the fast money round. And in the fast money round, they give you a clue and you have to say whatever comes to your mind. And the clue was, Snoop, answer this, pie in the what? And Snoop's game teammate before said pie in the sky. And so when it came to Snoop, Steve Harvey was like, okay, Snoop, pie in the what? And Snoop said horse. Horse. Pie in the horse, which is nothing. That's not a sentence. That's not a phrase. And just the way Steve Harvey handled it, it was so funny. And I used to love Steve Harvey. I loved Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer. I also loved, oh God, what's his name? The one that passed away. He was so funny. Do you remember that comedian? It was Cedric the Entertainer. It was Steve Harvey. And it was, oh God, I can see his bugged eyes. Debbie's looking for it. But it was the Kings of Comedy. And I was always attracted to that type of comedy as a kid. You know, I loved Richard Pryor and all of that. And it was just, who is it? Bernie Mac. How could I forget Bernie motherfucking Mac? He had that joke about a 2-year-old coming, like getting snacks in the middle of the night. And it just, I always had an affinity in my heart for Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer and the late, great Bernie Mac. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. It was a cool way to make money. And the only thing missing was the conversation I would have with my mom and dad after the show. And I always think about that even now. But before we get into the mom of it all and the Dead Mom Club members that are listening, and even if you're not a Dead Moms Club member, you can still appreciate a little love for your mom and making fun of our moms, because that's what we're going to do today. There's a few absolutely nots. First of all, when I was at the festival, I went to get the swag bag. You think I'm not going to get the swag bag? Are you crazy? I love a swag bag. First of all, I like to share. You know, my assistant gets a bunch of the fun stuff. Sometimes drugs. I will give her drugs. And one of my swag bags that she received recently had her almost calling the hospital, because she did a Snoop Delta 9 cookie, and that shot her to the moon. And that's on me. Actually, no, that's on her for not Googling properly. But we get a lot of fun stuff. And so, yeah, I like to keep it, and I like to give it away. And there were these two young girls that were there, and I'm standing there with my Netflix swag bag. And these girls come up, and I'm standing in the taco line. Oh, wait, no, this was before we got into the taco line. That's a whole other story. So these girls are like, we're such big fans, can we get a photo? And I said, sure. And they're cute. They're like 16 years old. For sure, probably somebody's daughters or whatever. Maybe they came to enjoy the show. I don't know. Maybe they're fans of The Circle and Too Hot to Handle. Who knows? So we do a photo. Then they go, can we have something? I said, what? They're like, can we have something? Because they saw I had my swag bag. So being the person I am, I was like, sure, because I knew I was probably going to give the shirt to Deb. Maybe I keep the hat. Who knows? I don't need any of this stuff. I end up donating it or giving it to someone and giving it as a gift. And so I was like, sure. So I give one of the girls a T-shirt, one of them a hat, and they're happy. They're, celebrating. Then they go, can we have one of your necklaces? What? Am I being robbed? I thought for sure I was being robbed by two little teenagers. And the audacity to just be so forward about me giving them stuff. And I said, well, my mom's in this one. Do you want this one? This is my dead mom's necklace that has the date she was born and the date she died and her name. And I love you to the moon and back. You want that one? Or do you want the other one? That's my mom's. This is my dead mom's as well. And how about this one's my mom's? It just was such a weird situation. And to them, I say, absolutely not. You don't ask people for free shit. When you're young and the world is handed to you, go out and earn it. You little brats. They were cute, though. They were real cute. Another absolutely not goes right towards me. Since this is a Mother's Day episode, I am a mother. I'm a mother thrice. I have 3 dogs. They equal to 1 mentally challenged child. That's the math. 3 dogs equals 1 mentally challenged child. That's the difficulty and the responsibility of having 3 dogs. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. Look, I'm a mom. I'm not perfect. I've never given birth to something, but let me tell you, if I could put chicken up in my womb and give birth to him, you better believe I would. Gosh darn it. Chicken's the cutest little thing. And I'd put him right up in there and I'd give birth to him, and I would take maternity leave. I would call it paternity leave. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll be at a stage near you. Please don't heckle me, because you will feel all of my wrath. And I love my dogs. They're all different. They're all insane. Carlin is my pit boxer mix. Chaplin and Bunny are my little Chi-Chi mixes. They're both pains in the ass. Carlin's nickname is Moose. Chaplin I call Chicken. Bunny's Bunny. She's a bitch. Carlin is a dumpster. Carlin eats everything. Always. Always eats everything. He's eaten loaves of bread. Entire loaves of bread. He's eaten bags of uncooked rice that has come out cooked. He's eaten chocolate. He's eaten grapes. He's eaten multiple avocados. Let me tell you, he's still alive. He's still with us, and he's doing great. And there's probably people out there like, you're so irresponsible. You're so irresponsible. You're not wrong, but so are you. All of us are irresponsible at some point. So chillax, okay, with your self-righteous judgments. You're not wrong. He gets into stuff. And first and foremost, I'm here to clarify some confusion. I'm not a veterinarian, but I've been to one many times this past month alone. Having 3 dogs, you learn a little bit. Chocolate is not bad for dogs. It's not good. It's not good for humans. It's not bad for dogs. Dark chocolate is bad for dogs. And it's not necessarily the chocolate. It's the caffeine in the chocolate. They have a caffeine allergy. So if they were to eat a coffee bean, they probably would die. Coffee is extremely toxic to dogs. So my dog, Carlin, is a very nifty creature where he gets into things. His paws, I swear, work like fingers, and he's got dexterity in his paws that I don't understand from a scientific standpoint. I don't know how he unzips things, because he unzips things like quietly and gets things out of purses and unzips bags and then goes inside of bags and then gets things out of pockets. And normally he does this when I'm gone. He's never done anything mischievous when I'm home. So I know he's getting a little elderly. He's about 12 or 13 years old, so he's a little bit more mischievous in his older age. And I'm probably a little bit in my motherly age, probably not as on top of it as I should be. But I left the house to go do my laundry. I left the room to go do the laundry. And it's across the yard in my backyard. And he... In that time, from me putting my laundry into the laundry machine thing, the washing machine thingy, I come back into the bedroom. He had eaten an entire 3.5 gram bar of chocolate shrooms. And I said, ruh-roh, buddy, you're about to be on a journey that I can't join you with. I'm not going to be on that magic carpet ride with you, but you're about to get shot into outer space, Potter space. You're about to be zoots, magoots, as we say. And so then I kind of went into a panic because I thought, oh God, this is a whole bar of chocolate. I wouldn't even want to eat the whole bar. And, cut to 15 minutes later, his eyes are his pupils are completely dilated. He's speaking fluent French and sitting with his legs crossed, smoking a joint. And I said, oh, buddy, I'm a bad mom. I am a bad mom. Here's the box. Here's the evidence. Right here. 3.5 grams per bar. That's a lot. He ate the whole freaking thing. Look at that. He got into it like a rat. Got right into it and then proceeded to whisper Russian secrets into my ear. And I felt like a bad mom. And I went on my app. I've got a modern animal app that I use. And I messaged the doctors. And they're like, rush him to the hospital. He's got to go to the hospital. He needs to get his stomach pumped. I'm like, it's a pit bull. It's not Tara Reid. Everyone calm down. Like, let me figure this out. And so I do some more research. And I find out that, hey, that type of mushroom's not necessarily toxic for dogs. And the worst thing that can happen, according to my research, is that they just hallucinate and have a great time or not a great time. Magic mushrooms contain psilocybin, which is structurally related to LSD and are presumed to act on serotonin receptors. Signs reported in dogs include vocalization, which is hilarious. Carlin definitely made noises. This is like the second time this has happened. Mydriasis, which I believe is pupil dilation. Ataxia, which I think is like when they can't control their movement. Tachycardia, that has to do with the heart. Disorientation, hypothermia, and anxiety. I mean, I have all of those on a weekly basis. So like, buck up, Carlin. This is LA and this is 2024. These are daily experiences for human beings. Join the crew. Join the tribe. Rarely tremors and seizures have been reported. Mushrooms are typically bought on the street, which is just not true. This is so outdated. I've never bought a mushroom on the street. I realize that maybe I'm a different type of person. Never bought a mushroom on the street, presumably, allegedly. I've never bought one at all. I don't even do them. But they may also be grown at the home or picked in the wild. Mushrooms picked in the wild have additional concern for correct identification. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be going out in a forest and just picking a mushroom and being like, here, Carlin, let's go on a little journey. So here's where it says treatment options. Treatment will usually revolve around the symptoms. Gastric decontamination may not be possible. No one's trying to do gastric decontamination from home. I don't even know how you do that. There was a bunch of things that I read. One of the things said you could give them some hydrogen peroxide, 3%, and kind of feed it into them with those little turkey basters. I did a little peanut butter on the end and I kept squirting that in. There's nothing that's going to make this dog vomit. He rarely vomits. He gags at 3 a.m. once in a while, but he rarely vomits. He has got an iron stomach. So the one thing that I read, I was reading through all these different articles and I'm like, please just give me a sign of hope here. Because I remember this happening before and he just had his ears on different levels and he stayed up for 24 hours and he was scared of leaves. And I've been there, to be honest. This said, fortunately, life-threatening signs are not commonly reported in pets. Controlling agitation and heart rate will likely be a mainstay of treatment. Drugs such as diazepam and even some other acetaminophen may help. So all the things that I read basically said your dog's just going to be super high. So I let him be super high. And something tells me he knows. Oh God, this dog video is playing. So this woman's dog basically went to a hike with her dog, and he got soups high, super, super high. There's music playing. Sorry, guys. I don't know if you can hear it. Now I'm in a Shiba commercial. Now I'm on Amazon.com. I can't stand how quick pop-ups work. And before you even know it, you've put 4 items in your cart and you've checked out. I'm just trying to watch a video of a dog high in a back seat. So this girl, New Hampshire, has a New Hampshire Labrador named Miley, and she's redefined as a road trip after she was filmed seemingly nodding off in the car after eating bad mushrooms. And so this video racked up 11 million views on TikTok. My dog just ate a wild mushroom and we spent $140 for the vet to tell us she's high. So after I read that, and then I saw that dogs just get high, I let him just be high. He's 14 years old. You know, let him go out like a rock star. If that's the way he's going to go out, that's the way he's going to go out. And if I have to get the label as being a bad mom, well, guess what? I don't want to be a good one. So to everyone threatening me about my dog, I say absolutely not. I say absolutely not. Okay, none of us know what we're doing. We're learning as we go. I have a memory of when I was like 8 years old with my parents. We went to this zoo, and the zoo was near my camp, which was in upstate New York, way upstate. I'm talking like near, this is near Governor. And Governor's a really small town just outside of Fort Drum, which is an even smaller town outside of Syracuse, New York. It just gets smaller and smaller. So I have to like give you some sort of reference point so you can pinpoint it on a map in your brain. Governor is known for the guy who created lifesavers. And you know that because when you enter the city center of Governor, which is like 6 people, all of them are related and married, there's a huge lifesavers statue. Now, I guess a statue, like a monument in the city center, which is just a small center with like a rent-a-center that's closed and a Burger King and a dollar store that's shut down as well. It's a kind of a po-bunk town. My grandma lived there. My mother was from around there. You know, my mom, we're going to get into my mom because this is a Mother's Day episode, but my mother grew up in a town near there. So this place was not a metropolis. And these people were very simple. They worked and they went home. And they were good American people, just regular, middle of the road, probably struggling, a lot of poverty, a lot of farms. You know, my mom grew up on a farm. She grew up in Hewelton, New York. And my grandmother actually lived in Governor. And so when we'd go to this camp, we'd see my grandma, and my aunts lived up there as well. So there's a lot of family there. So, you know, it wasn't a place where people were aware of what's right and what's wrong. And this is in the late 80s, early 90s. People were smoking in restaurants. My mother was smoking in utero. She smoked in the car with me in the car, and she also smoked with me in her womb. We didn't know what we were doing. We're so self-righteous. Well, hindsight is 20/20. Is that what the saying is? I believe it is. It should be. You look backwards, it's easy to know and act like you know everything. But I say this because I have a memory of going to a zoo near this town of Governor. And I can't remember the name of the town. I can't remember the name of the zoo. I feel like it was Roosevelt Zoo, but that might be the Roosevelt Zoo. I don't know where that is. Where's Roosevelt Zoo, Deb? But there was a little zoo. And you walked in. And it wasn't a zoo as much as it was like a yard that you paid to enter in like one little building. And there was a yard, an enclosure in the yard with one of those machines you put quarters in and you get handfuls of bird feed. So you walk into this enclosure, you open the gate, you walk in, and you get the bird feed, and then you're feeding deers, bunnies, and goats. Is this a zoo, or did someone just go hunting? I feel like someone just went hunting and then robbed a farmer. This doesn't feel like a zoo whatsoever. This feels like then it felt like a zoo, but now looking back, oh, this is not right at all. This is totally ridiculous. We paid to see creatures that live in the wild right down the street. They probably got caught, and now they're in this enclosure. Like, what? Wait a minute. Where am I? Is Roosevelt Zoo a place? No, I made it up. I can't remember the name of the zoo. I feel like it'll pop into my mind at some point. But is that in New York State? Oh, so maybe I did remember it. I might have remembered it. I don't remember where it was, but it was definitely in upstate New York, and I could have the name wrong. But down just beyond the yard of deer, bunnies, and goats were Rosamond Giffen Zoo. That's actually our zoo in Syracuse. I think. Well, we had Burnett Park. There were many different names, but anyways, just beyond the yard where there were deer, bunnies, and goats was a cage, and inside the cage was a tub, a bear claw tub, and the cage outlined right up to the tub. So the only space in this enclosure was the tub, and inside the tub was a tiger, and the tiger only had the tub as space. And we looked at it and didn't think anything of it. We're like, look at this tiger! Oh my God, there's a tiger in the wild. Are there bathtubs where tigers live? I don't think so. But I do remember my dad being annoyed and me not understanding. And I remember my dad taking us out shortly after that and being disturbed. And actually, he didn't want us to buy anything in the gift shop. It's so funny. I'm having this memory now. He dragged us out after that. He was actually enraged because of the tiger and the tiger's enclosure, and I didn't understand at the time. I'm like, but he's taking a bath, Dad. The tiger's washing himself, and you're being rude. No, the tiger was only enclosed in this tub. So we don't always know what we're doing. We don't always have it figured out, especially as parents. I think about that when I think about my mom. When I think about her as a parent, and I'm her age that she was when she was mothering me. She had me in her late 30s. So I was still young at this age now. And it's kind of wild to think of having someone to be responsible for now in my life. And before I get too deep into the episode, someone made me this mug. It's a ceramic mug. And I told a story about my mom a couple months back, maybe even like last year, possibly during the time when she had passed around that time. I told a story about a purple pumpkin a turquoise pumpkin that she had given me for Halloween to have, and I couldn't find it. And I was devastated about it. And this was probably early on in the grieving process, because you want to hang on to everything. Everything holds such a memory, and everything's so connected to that person. And the stupid plastic pumpkin, I couldn't get it out of my head. So somebody made me a mug because I couldn't find the pumpkin. So a fan made me this beautiful ceramic mug. They painted the pumpkin on it so I'd have it forever. And I feel so terrible because at the time I know it came with a note, and I don't know where that note went. I don't know who this is from. So if anyone is listening and knows, could please email me, jessimaepelusocomedy@gmail.com. I'm going to keep searching for it in my emails, and hopefully I find a note somewhere in my belongings, because I tend to keep all of those. But thank you for whoever made this beautiful mug, gorgeous mug. I found the plastic pumpkin, probably because of you, probably because of your generosity. But I do think about my mom now and what it was like to have me. I was a wild kid. I know I have her journal here, which feels a little invasive. I've definitely read it a couple of times, and it's strange to hear her thoughts. You write in a journal, you don't write it as a book. It's never going to be published, and you hope no one fucking reads it ever. We should all have private thoughts, and that's okay. But she wasn't perfect, but she was so loving. My mom was so loving. And it's so funny because we were talking about her collections last time, and I was wondering about that. I was like, why did she have so many collections of things? The scissors and the paper clips and hairbrushes. If there were one color, she had all the colors. If there were one item, she bought it in every freaking shape, size, and option that it came. And that was who she was. And I think why we hold on to things has a lot to do with how we grow up. She grew up poor in a packed farmhouse with an abusive father and an amazingly independent and strong mother. And so I think she probably held on to things to feel like she had something. And I'm speculating, but I think people collect things to feel safe and to feel comfort. And for her, paper clips did it. For her, paper clips did it. She had paper clips in every different shape and size. She had teeny ones. She had those, those like plastic things that have like the little metal arms, and then you open the arms and you squeeze them, and it's like a little clip, but then you put them down, it holds it. She had all different shapes and sizes for those. I mean, she did work in an office, but she was retired for a long time. And the last episode, we talked about Ross, James & Son Contractors. 204 North Beach Street, Syracuse, New York, 315-472-6902. And I'm going to call them for the next episode that I do. I want to call them and see if they're still in business. I Googled it, and Google Business says they're still up and running, which is so wild. I did a little deep dive and did a little bit more nostalgia, and have been doing that as I unpack all the things that I got from my mom's house. And it's interesting because grief can be really compounded. Grief can become compounded depending on what you're experiencing in your life. And for me, I've definitely had a challenging year because we're selling our childhood home, and that reopens grief. And it can also make you feel a different sense of loss. Like losing people versus losing a home. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of similarities. But the one thing that happens, I think, and what happened with me is I revisited the loss of both my parents because we lived together in that household. It's also so weird to like live with a guy. It's your dad, but you're like living with a dude. Isn't that weird? I just think it's kind of strange. You live with these two people you know so well, but you also only know based off of what you know, and that's so little because you're new. You don't know anything in life. You're just a new person, but you're expected to trust these people completely. And I was so fortunate that they didn't physically abuse us. They didn't emotionally abuse us. There was no abuse. There was no excessive drinking in the house, no drugs in the house. We were so fortunate. And those are like basics. Most people grow up in that. We were so fortunate that we didn't have that. And I'm so much like my mom. I'm so much like my mom in so many ways. But losing the house definitely compounded my grief. It made me feel their loss again. And I've grappled with this a little bit because on one side of the coin, you don't want to wallow in that emotion, but on the other side, you do. You want to let that emotion do what it needs to do to you, to exhaust it and to feel it completely. But you also have to have tools to keep yourself going. I do believe you need to keep going, but there's a balance with that as well. Sometimes you just have to stop and feel what you need to feel, because grief can be all encompassing, like a storm, like a visiting friend. And even sometimes it feels like a weighted blanket. It shows up in so many different forms. It's like a wave of emotion over you, taking up space, demanding attention. It's like a needy child. It's a moment from the past asking to be revisited. And it's not there to upset you, but to remind you of the love that was there, the love that is still there. And it's love finding its way back to you the only way it knows how. And whether those emotions are heavy or light, founded in joy, a little bit of sorrow, those are emotions that I believe are messages. Not like woo-woo messages through the universe, but maybe... Who knows? Why do we have to shun that? Why can't we just get lost in the magic of it all and realize that essence of grief is love? And who are we to try to dissect that too much? I think we lose the beauty of the experience when we're trying to understand it. I don't think grief is meant to be understood. I think it's meant to be experienced and felt. And I think it's meant to just wash through you, wave over you, and flow the way it needs to flow. You know, the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health, rated a new diagnosis of grief, prolonged grief, beyond a year. And I don't know, how do you quantify something like that? How can you quantify something that is quantum, in my opinion? I think love is a quantum emotion. I think love is something that can't really be measured. How do you measure love? Can you ask a mother to measure how much she loves her kid? Can you measure that? Is there a measuring cup that a mother can pour into and say, that's enough, that's how much I love my kid? I think a mother would keep pouring into it and say there's no limit to that. So I don't know how you can limit the loss of that and the experience of that loss. And so anyone out there who's feels like they're grieving too long, you're not. It's a lifelong experience. In minor grief experiences compound into the greater grief experiences, and it's hard to navigate. But you have to know that it's a message of love, and to not overthink it. Feel it. Overfeel it. Don't overthink it. When you overthink, you underfeel. Feel it all. And, for me, I've missed having parental love. And that's when you lose both your parents, your mother specifically. I talked about that phrase that I love, that the woman arrives when the mother dies, which I interpret as you become a woman when you lose your mother, because you become untethered to her. You're untethered to your maker. And so when that cord is quote unquote cut, you're now looking for a place to plug in, because a woman's calling, a woman's nature is to love and give no matter what. And that's my belief. I think women give. And I think, I've looked at different research, different doctors and articles, and have read up on women with autoimmune disease and why women have certain issues and why we have hormonal issues. And I keep coming to the fact that women are natural givers, that we are built to take care of people, and us pouring out and making sure that everyone else is okay before us is what causes a lot of autoimmune diseases, what causes a lot of our exhaustion and our hormonal imbalances. We're literally making ourselves sick to love another human. And so when you lose that love, when you lose the connection to that, you feel untethered. When I lost my dad, it was a different feeling of loss than when I lost my mom. When I lost my mom, I felt like George Clooney in the movie Gravity. It might be a deep cut for you guys or a reference, but basically, spoiler alert, Sandra Bullock kicks him out of the spaceship and he's floating in outer space with that spacesuit and that connection to the ship cut and castrated. And he's just out there and he's floating. And that's how I kind of felt and still feel some days. Where do you get that parental love after somebody dies? Where do you get that? Or is it meant to be a shift? Is it meant to shift into someone or something else? And can that parental love live on through you? And I think that's what happens when your mother dies. You're used to getting her love. You're used to her giving love to you and giving you support and giving you the foundation and pouring through the umbilical cord all of those nutrients, emotional, spiritual, physical nutrients through to you, that when that gets cut, I believe that there's a shift that needs to happen. And I think that's why a lot of women struggle. I think that's why I've struggled. I don't have a child to necessarily give that to, even though like I said, I'd give birth to my fucking dogs if I could. But I think the shift happens in the woman where you need to give that. I think it's a natural progression. And so a lot of women struggle with that. I think learning where to point all of that excess love and realizing that there needs to be a shift. And also giving yourself time and space and grace to make that shift for yourself, because it's a heavy thing. It's a heavy experience, and it can be overwhelming because you're looking for love. You're looking to get it. I don't know, sis. I think it's now the season for you to give and for you to learn how to take what your mother gave you your whole life and give that to the people in your life and give that to the people you love. And I wanted to talk about things my mom gave me, the things that my mother taught me. So many things, endless things. Like I hear her voice. I just hear her voice so much. And it's like she's in my head sometimes. And you're not crazy if you hear that. She's a part of you. How can she not be? So I hear her. She guides me. My dad, we had such a different relationship. My dad was like, not that he loved me any less, but it was just a different experience. And I hear him in different ways. And I connect to him more through what I do for a living. But my mom, I can hear her advice all the time. And I can hear her. And I laugh sometimes, just her telling me to stop overthinking, or Jesus Christ. She always used to say, Jesus Christ. She added like 4 syllables. Jesus Christ. So I hear her in my voice, in my head all the time. Like right there, she told me to take a sip of my wine. And I feel connected to her, and I know that a part of what I need to do now is take what she's taught me, take what she gave me my whole life, and turn around and shift that relationship I had with her and to give and to give and to give and to give. So what I'm going to give to you are things that my mother taught me, a few things that my mother taught me, because if we were going to go through the whole list, we'd be here forever, because she sure loved to teach. She was a teacher. One of the things she taught me was to treat everyone equally and with kindness. And she embodied that. She was a union rep. She worked for the Syracuse City School District, and she represented everybody in a school that wasn't a teacher. You know, the lunch ladies, the bus drivers, hall monitors, and she fought for them. But she taught me to treat everyone equally. She treated everyone with respect, and it really was a skill. Everyone felt so seen by her, and she was so respected because of it. She had this really natural ability to speak to someone with such grace and so much compassion. And I can be a little hard. My dad was a little bit more rough around the edges, so I can embody that as well. I'm also my own person. I don't believe that we are exactly carbon copies of our parents. That can sometimes be a crutch. So you got to get rid of that. You have to take responsibility for who you are and step into your own power and step into who you are. But I know that my mother being this compassionate person was something that I always aspired to be. And it was such a force of nature to watch her talk to people and to watch how people responded to her. And the other thing that she taught me, which we've spoken about a little bit on this podcast, is to fight for what's right. She was a freaking fighter. She fought, sometimes too much. And you know what? Like mother, like daughter. Sometimes I fight too much, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Savage Fenty sending me wrong underwear. I'm going to fight a little bit. I work hard for my money, and I'm going to fight for what's right. Especially when it comes to people in your life, especially when it comes to principle. My mother was all about principle. She was all about doing what was right and doing what was right for good people. Another thing she taught me was wine is always a good choice. And there's no time like the now for wine. There's no specific time to drink wine. 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock where? Everywhere? She was never like, oh, what time is it? Oh, we should wait a little bit. I always love this. There was this clip, I think it might be from Monster-in-Law with Jane Fonda. I could be wrong, but she's drinking wine, and the other woman in the scene is like, Mom, it's not even noon, and the clock just went noon, and she went, and then took a sip of her wine. That was my mom. She wasn't an alcoholic. She could put a box of wine away, though, I will say. She was teeny, and she could pack it away. But she always was down for a glass of wine. She was always down for the more leisure side of life. She loved to have a glass of wine and read, a bowl of popcorn and a movie and a glass of wine. She just really knew how to squeeze the most out of life, even if it was simple. And she taught me how to appreciate the simple things, like just sitting and hanging out together. We would just sit and chill, and she had her backyard patio. She loved to decorate her backyard space, and I'm the same way. And she called it her Getio. You know, we grew up on the north side of Syracuse. Like I said in a couple podcasts a couple years ago, my sister and I thought we were rich until we realized a couple years ago we grew up poor. We thought all the houses my mom and my dad had with their exes were ours. Oh, no, we have multiple homes. No, you don't. You're on a divorce world tour. You're not rich. You're the product of a divorced family. But they made us feel rich. My mom made us feel rich. And she was really humble. And so she decorated the backyard and called it her Getio. And she made it cute. She had lights. She even hung up drapes. She had a sound system out there. Really cute little like turtles and moonlights and solar lighting. It just felt so cozy, and you wanted to hang there. And the neighbors always came over, and my dad always came over. That was the other thing, like that. Such a testament to my parents to be separated from such a young age for me, 8 or 9 years old, and my dad always came over. Like I said, he'd come over. My mom was even home. He'd be cooking steak. She couldn't get mad at him. She loved him. And he used to love coming over. She just was, she was a magnet for people. People went to her for advice. They went to her for solace. They went to her for it. a point of view, for a shoulder to cry on, someone to laugh with. She was such a good friend to everyone. And sometimes too good of a friend. There were a couple people who took advantage of her in her life, and we'll leave those nameless, but I had a retribution. I had a moment of retribution with one of those women who ended up stealing money from her. This woman played as being a really close friend to my mom for years and then ended up stealing money from her. And I got the opportunity when I was working in a store. She was in line and she basically committed credit card fraud with my mother, which is so dumb. It's like the dumbest thing you could do, but this woman was dumb. And so she's in line and she comes up and sees me and acts like, oh, hey, it's so nice to see you. And I go, really? How are you paying today? Whose credit card are you using? And I told her to get the fuck out of H&M. Retribution for Nancy. And it felt great. One of the other things she taught me, and she used to say this to me all the time, and it would bother me because I knew she was right. It would bother me so much when she said it. And I don't know if some of your moms say this. Put your big girl panties on and deal with it. And I'd be like, God damn it, Nancy. I didn't need to hear that, but I needed to hear it. Put your big girl panties on and deal with it. And that's sort of how she raised my sister and I. She didn't coddle us. She wouldn't, because she knew. She knew how delicate it was to be a girl and to become a woman in this world. And I don't care if anyone's sick of hearing it. Watch the Barbie movie or just watch the America Ferrera monologue. And that's all you need to know. It's true and it's real. And women who raise tough daughters have the hardest job ever. My mom raised tough daughters because in order to raise tough daughters, you have to be hard on them. And that almost goes against the very fabric of being a mother, because you want to be coddling, you want to care for them, you want to protect them. And the irony is sometimes the only way to protect your child is to force them to be independent, to force them to make mistakes, and to force them to be hard. And so she would tell me to put my big girl panties on and deal with it. And I say that to myself sometime. I say that to myself when I'm struggling. Like, oh, I got to put my big girl panties on and deal with it. And then I realized my mom's nickname was No Pants Nance. She didn't even wear panties. So what the heck was she talking about? That's the other thing that I wanted to add to this list that I learned from my mother. Sleep naked. Sleep naked. It's the greatest thing ever. I just started doing it a couple years ago. I sleep so much more soundly. First of all, night sweats are real. You ever sweat in the middle of the night? You wake up, it's winter. Why am I in a pool of sweat? You wake up, you're like, oh, did I buy a waterbed? What just happened? You wake up and you're like, I'm 20 pounds lighter and I'm drowning in myself. What happened in the middle of the night? Is this hormones? This is not fun. Someone inject me in the butt with whatever it takes to balance this out. Do I need to become trans to make this become a fixed issue? Because I will. Sign me up. The hormonal night sweats can fuck off. For all I'm concerned. Sleep naked. No Pants Nance's style. And No Pants Nance was her nickname. If you don't know the story, one of my best friends, Marty Caproni, was staying over in our my sister's old room, guest bedroom. And she loved Marty. Marty is like a brother to me. And him and I were doing a road gig and it was too far for him to continue driving. We've been driving all night anyways. And so he gets to the guest bedroom and my mom put a little chocolate on the pillow. She cleaned the sheets. She set up like a cute little station for him in the bedroom and we all go to bed. And then Marty gets up Marty's door was open and my mom got up to go pee and went by his door and had no pants on. Had no pants. And he just watched her go to the bathroom, watched her leave, back down the hall. He's like, I got a visit from No Pants Nance last night. And I was like, what did you say? Is that a new fairy in the house that I'm not aware of? Apparently it is. And it was my mom, pantless. So you put your big girl panties on, Nancy, and deal with it. Something else she taught me, and this goes back to her love of wine, is that wine in a box comes with a bag. If you break open the box, you get an extra glass out of the bag because you can't extract all of the wine while the bag is inside and intact in the box. You're welcome. Nancy's Life Hacks 101. One of the other things she taught me is don't worry what people who don't worry about you think about you. And that was a big one. That was a really, really big one for me. I still deal with that. I still deal with worrying about what people think sometimes. I think we all do at some point in our life. But she never cared. And if she did, she didn't show it. Maybe she faked it until she made it. But she just was so authentic and didn't care if she offended somebody. And not that she was out to offend somebody, but didn't care that if how she lived with such conviction and so much confidence, she didn't care if that threatened somebody else. If you're threatened by that sort of thing, usually it means that you're lacking confidence in yourself, and that's for you to work on. Put your big girl panties on and deal with it. She was so powerful and yet so vulnerable. And so powerful and yet so frail sometimes. She weighed like 85 pounds soaking wet. I just loved being over there every year, every season in the year. I loved spending time there in the winter. It didn't matter. There was always some sort of essence that she brought to the holiday, to the season. She made everything so magical, and she put so much into decorating the house. And the house felt like it flowed along with the year, and you felt like you were literally in a Christmas tree shops all year long. You never not knew what day it was at Nancy's house. You even knew if it was the President's Day. She decorated for Grandparents' Day. No grandparents around. She decorated for every freaking holiday. Indigenous Peoples' Day, better believe she decorated for it. She loved everyone. The house was so magical. She was so magical. She just loved being a mom. Sometimes she hated it. Read her journal. Saw a couple of those entries. Ouch. Ruh-roh. Gonna need to book a therapy appointment for that one. Apparently Emily was the tough one, not me. Hello, California baby, right here. One of the other things she taught me, and this is something we always did, didn't matter how far I was going, didn't matter how long I was going to be gone, didn't matter if I was coming back in an hour. We always said, I love you. We always said, I love you. We always hugged. We always kissed. Open mouth. We were always affectionate, and we always let the other know how much we cared. We wrote it in notes. We wrote it on Post-its. We wrote it in cards. We'd write it on stupid little to-do lists. We wrote it inside of books and crossword puzzles. We wrote it on bathroom mirrors. And it was ingrained in each other's soul how much we loved each other. She loved my sister too. Not as much, obviously. But she always told us that she loved us. We never wondered. And I think that's why, not that it was okay to lose her. I didn't feel that there were many rocks left unturned. Of course I wanted her more. Of course I wished I had more time with her. I think it's the one thing that most palliative care doctors and nurses say that people request or want at the end is more time. That's what we all want. And that's what we all squander. That's what I don't get. We think we have all the time in the world until there's no more time left, and we wish we could buy more, and we try and bargain. Shouldn't bargain at the end. You should enjoy and savor in the moment. And I told you about the Uber driver in the beginning. There was this Uber driver that drove me and my assistant Deb back from the Netflix's Joke Festival. And he's this great guy, Doug. He owns Cheech's Pizza in Los Angeles. If you find yourself in LA, go check it out. He gave the business to his daughter, and now his daughter runs the business. And he just was a sweet guy. He was just a cool guy. He was very interesting and did so much. He was a Major League Baseball player at one point. And he had also played in the minor leagues. He was married a bunch of times, had a couple kids, and lived this beautiful life. And now he loves driving Uber. He just sort of embodied a lot of the qualities and traits that my mother had, you know, doing so much in their life and having a couple ex-husbands and a couple kids and feeling so full and being really in the moment with what they do. And I was telling him what I do. And here's this stranger, and he goes, I'm proud of you. And I was like, damn, I haven't heard that in a long time. And I realized how much I missed it. Just hearing my mom or dad say that. My mom would say it all the time. I would be like, bitch, back up. You're like a stalker. God, okay, you're proud of me. You're not getting any money. She never asked for money. But it's so funny where you think you've got it all figured out and you think you're good, and some Uber driver named Doug says he's proud of you and you lose it. I was like, God damn it, Doug. You're proud of me? I'm gonna go to Cheech's Pizza. I'm gonna buy all your pizza. He hand makes the dough and the sauce and the cheese. So go to Cheech's Pizza because he's proud of me. And I'm proud of you guys. And if you're part of the Dead Moms Club, do what you have to do. Keep them alive. Start giving the love they gave you. Put that out in the universe. Put that out in the world. Give it, even if it feels hard. Even if you feel like you don't want to give it. Because by giving love to others is a way for you to stay connected to the love you receive from your mother. And it's always there. It's always inside of you. It's just a conversation away. It's a moment away. Give yourself some space to sit and be with her however you can. I kept all of her voicemails, all the ones I could keep for a couple years. I've kept them all. I kept all my dad's. I put them on a Dropbox file. And sometimes I play them when I want to hear her voice. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll book another trip to Italy and see if she'll show up. She's always right there. She's with you and she loves you and she's proud of you. I'm proud of you. Thank you guys so much. Happy Mother's Day.